Hello everyone, this is part 35 of What If Naruto Learned the Secret of Shadow Clone, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Work, and more work. Naruto was keeping so busy he was almost seeing paperwork in his dreams now. Having kept moving for the last week, spamming clones like no one's business in order to settle the Yuki clan into their new home along with giving the ninja port a major progress boost, he was beyond tired. Tazuna and the Uzushio had been more than impressed with his efforts on that end, but even they had cautioned him and eventually petitioned for him to slow it down and relax. It had taken a little coaxing before he had finally taken the hint, but he couldn't help it. The port was a massive undertaking, and he wanted to have his mind clear when he left to go train. He didn't want to be thinking about what ifs or maybes. Sighing and laying back to stare at the clouds, he wondered if learning the Mokuton was possible. Certainly would help with construction. The roof of the Uzumaki Tower was a good place to actually rest and relax when he wanted to, and today found him in the company of Jiraiya the Toad Sage, who was nudging him and offering him a cup. Taking the warm drink, tea today thankfully, Naruto sits up and takes a sip. You've been running yourself ragged. Think you might wanna slow it down. Naruto has no problem agreeing with the thought, yeah. I don't know, have had this urge to just get things done. I can't explain it. Well, whichever is going on with you, make sure to take it easy. Relax. Breath. Training won't do you any good if you have to recuperate when you get there. Jiraiya holds his gaze out over the Uzushio city. Besides, you're young, you have time. Don't rush to do everything so soon. Live a little. Plus, secretly Jiraiya was a little worried. Something in Iwa was making moves, the Akatsuki were back to hunting the Jinchuriki, and something was going on far to the east. He couldn't bring any of that up though, not without some proof. Have something you absolutely wanna see done. Naruto shook his head, not really now. With the Yuki and the Uzushio settled in for the most part, from here on I'll relax and wait for the Riptide teams to return. Once they do, I'll say my goodbyes, and we'll go. I'm sure Fukasaku-sama is more than ready to see me. Jiraiya chuckled as he thought about Pa and his rantings lately. I think he wanted to see you a while ago. Your chakra control has been more than up to snuff for a while now. Which worried the sage a bit. It had put him another step closer towards beginning to mess with his seal, and friendly with the Biju or not, it was still a risk. Maybe a change of subject, you ready to be a dad? Fuck no. Answer instant, Naruto shrunk in on himself a bit, I'll be 16 this year, it's way earlier than we ever thought this would happen. Honestly if it hadn't been the older girls, Kyuki and Kotohime, he'd be much more worried. But they assured him that everything would be fine. Personally he didn't think so until he could absolutely promise that they could have peaceful lives. Sometimes I think about running. Loading up an airship with everyone and some supplies and just flying away. Beyond the sea to a new land. Without the Akatsuki or power-hungry cage or any of the nonsense we have to put up with. The sage resting a thick hand on his head and tussling his hair, Naruto looked up as Jiraiya grinned at him. Ya no, I think all parents have worries like that, at least once or twice. Your dad was so worried he made himself sick. But he wanted you. Was so excited to have you, and your mom. Woo. That woman would have taken on entire armies for you. Eyes going distant as he looked out over his city, Naruto can't help but wish for even a few minutes with said parents, they really wanted me that much, huh? Like you wouldn't believe. Hey. Chuckling and ignoring the tight feeling in his chest, Naruto downs his tea, hope I'm doing them proud. I'm sure you a kid. Look at this, the Uzumaki clan has been resurrected, Uzushio has revived, you're a well-known and powerful ninja. Don't think you could have done much better. Naruto frowned though, mind going towards one of his major worries, except I need to worry about Kumo and their bullshit. Finally had a chance to sit down and really question Yugito. Having moved her to a more plush room in the tower basement, Yugito was taking it as an extended vacation and was giving him any and all information that he asked for. Which for him right now including all the information she had about the captured Uzumaki in Kumo. None of the information was pretty, but it was necessary to have. Jiraiya however refills Naruto's cup and sighs, "Be careful. The current Raikage is a proud and stubborn man and he didn't get that title without being excessively powerful. Tread lightly." The older man frowned a bit as Naruto turned to look at him. He's prone to contradicting himself sometimes, so whatever he says, if it's good for Kumo he'll ignore it. It's going to go one of two ways I think. Naruto is frowning as he begins to sip his tea again. Either we can talk it out, or I rip my family free from Kumo by force. Jiraiya wishes that he could talk Naruto away from any rash actions, but this is family they were talking about. Dangling Uzumaki clan members in front of him was like taunting an enraged bull. One capable of destroying villages. There really isn't much of a in-between when dealing with A, so be careful but don't hesitate. Behind them there's a shuffle of movement, and both men look back to see a smiling Karen coming towards them. Wind tugging at her bangs, the rest of her hair pulled into a neat bun, she adjusted her glasses with a smile. "You've gotten a call." Konoha. Groaning as he finally decides to stand as it looks like he had taken enough of a break, Naruto grins down at the older man. "Guess that's my cue. I'll be on my way." Waving his apprentice away, Jiraiya motions out to the distance. "You better hold true to your plan on leaving. Or you're going to keep making excuses and stall." Turning away with a frown, Naruto knows that Jiraiya is probably talking from experience there. "I know. As soon as Hinata and the others return, I'll say my goodbyes." A slight pause before he half turns back to the sage. "You coming?" "Nah. Think I'm going to sit and enjoy the view for a little bit. Let the world pass me by. Don't always need to have a clear goal after all." Sure, old man. Don't get yourself into trouble." Waving, Naruto leaves with Karen. Something within him was anxious, had been all week, and he couldn't figure it out. It was part of why he had been keeping busy. Hopefully it was just the worry about leaving for training. At least it better be just that. Overdoing it as usual, Naruto had provided a clone to Riptide Team 2, dropping Tayuya and the girls off in sooner so they could make their way quickly towards the last known sighting of their target. Getting a general idea from local reports, they began to wander from Watering Hole to Town Oasis in search of the singular Akatsuki member. After a week of wandering and enduring the hot sun, they finally had a lead. Getting the description of a large man draped in a black cloak with red clouds headed towards a secluded oasis towards the southwest, the girls made their way eagerly in hopes of catching up. This lead was sure to pan out. As Ino noted, this oasis was the one that held the sound base, or rather, used to. Taking precautions early by checking over their equipment and donning their respective Uzumaki masks, Hinata leads the way as they vow to make this quick. Ino can't help but tease as hot sand digs between her toes. "Maybe if we're lucky we can call Naruto and have him give us a reward personally after we drop this bounty off." Hinata sighs but doesn't turn back to swat her friend. "Do you have any thoughts in that blonde head of yours besides sex?" "Do you?" Tayuya chuckles from Hinata's other side, listening to the smaller girl growl. "You're both perverts, get over it." Ino points at her lazily, happy that the older girl had finally ditched the beanie and had taken to wearing her hair in a wild mane behind her, says the girl who has been getting some extra time lately. "You trying to catch up to Kotohime and Kayuki?" Ino and Hinata had considered it themselves, but decided that it was still too early. Soon though. Blushing but keeping her balance as they started to rise over a dune, Tayuya coughed into a fist. "I don't know what you mean." Hinata wagged a finger at her. "I caught you in the library the other day." Ino joined in, "And don't think I didn't notice you under his desk yesterday." Well, Hinata activated her eyes to check their progress, just to see that the area was still clear, "and you outlasted Karen and Honoka the other evening." Okay. So I've needed a little more love recently. That a crime? In her heart, she was still worried. Something was different. Not wrong. But something was tugging her to stay close to Naruto, and her feelings just kept overflowing. There was nothing wrong with that. Giggling, Ino shook her head as Hinata waved them forward to continue over another dune, not saying there is and no one is complaining about it. Certainly not. They all had been a little more affectionate lately. Probably the stress of knowing he would be gone soon. Hinata sighed and finally turned back towards Ino. "Should we focus on the mission, super slut?" "Sure thing, Thunder Tits." Both girls shared a laugh before Ino really does focus. "It is odd, isn't it, that Akatsuki would send out one guy, alone. Don't they run pairs?" Hinata nods. Sure, but maybe this is Deidara's partner. Maybe he just hasn't gotten a new partner yet. That or maybe he's like Naruto and is unnecessarily good with clones or something. Tayuya chimed in, happy the topic had been changed. Ino groaned and waved that evil away from him. Kami, I hope not. Fighting Naruto is like fighting against a really well-coordinated army. Nearly impossible. Seeing both girls nod, Ino gives a silent prayer that it's just the guy being arrogant as hell. Morning passing into afternoon and the sun beginning to dip down into the sky, Hinata hums as she locks onto a chakra signature. There's something ahead of us. Something. Tayuya is instantly focused as Senbon launches appear on Ino's wrists, previously hidden under orange arm warmers. Can ya elaborate? Not really. It's man-shaped, yeah. But the chakra is all wrong. Not really a network. Maybe a puppet and the man is inside. Hinata tried her best to focus deeper, but the signal inside the man-shaped shell didn't make much sense either. Yes, for sure the outer cover is just a puppet while there is another thing that is man-shaped inside of it. From there, it's anyone's guess. Still leading the way, she pauses them as they come to the crest of a dune where she thinks on it a bit harder as she analyzes the man. This has to be Deidara's old partner. Sasori of the Red Sand, the puppet user. Tayuya frowns, well shit. So it's not just him we're fighting, but all his fucking puppets. Hinata nods, he's an abomination. Being closer now, she could focus more clearly on the cluster of flesh that remained of the puppet user. How could anyone go so far in modifying themselves? Could you even be considered human at that point? Without a puppet, you wouldn't even be able to interact with the world at all. Let's put it down quickly. Ino noticed the change in Hinata's tone and nodded along, sure thing. Let's trash him and head back to Suna for our bounty. I bet good money they'll pay up big time for this guy. That was why they were out here after all, making money for the city. Tayuya cautions them both, remember, he's a puppet user. So anything and everything he has is most likely poisoned. Try not to get close if you can help it. Ino shrugs, I've been building up my poison resistance, but I'll still do my best to keep my distance. Sucks for you though, Hinata. I might have something for it. I only need one moment, one hit. Hinata was still a practitioner of the Yukan. She could shred what was left of the puppet master in an instant if she could get close. Tayuya mentally tallies it all up before grinning behind her mask. That's the plan then. Ino leads, Hinata look for an opening and I'll support with my doki. I'll keep my seal in reserve as a last resort. Just in case. Seeing both women with her nod and prepare themselves, they charge over the dune to a waiting and bored-looking Sasori. Hunched over and relaxed within his main puppet Hiriko, the large and heavily armored puppet offered him the best protection. I thought I felt some small fry coming my way. Any chance I can convince you to go back the way you came? He really wasn't in the mood for a battle today. Only here to check on the rumor he heard about the sound base in this area. He had been curious about his sleeper agent. I'd rather not waste the effort. Tayuya can't help but smirk and adopt a haughty pose, flute appearing in her hand. You know something? That was just what I was thinking. Such a windbag surely won't be much of an issue. You sure allowed. Your type usually dies first. Sasori watched as the women before him began to fan out. Must we? You aren't soon a ninja, so what business do you have with me? Hinata grinned as Tayuya summoned her doki behind her. We just want your head, nothing serious. Of course, none of the girls could forgive the terrorist group for attempting to hunt down Naruto and those like him. As far as Foxton was concerned, every member of Akatsuki had two options. Surrender and pledge their loyalty to Naruto, or die. Sasori just shrugged, bored and still uninterested in the weak-looking ninja. You may try like so many others. At the least, you might make for some interesting additions to my collection. All three women look at each other for a moment before they burst into action. Tayuya leaping back as she begins to play, her doki closing in while Ino swings left to harass their target with Senbon while Hinata swings right but stays out of reach for now. Deftly dodging or deflecting attacks on his person, Sasori can't help but sigh. Just as he thought, they really were weak. I know our leader has spoken with yours. If you leave now I'll forget this ever happened. Sure, Pain had said that there was no alliance between them and to resume hunting all of the other Jinchuriki, but all the same Sasori didn't want to fight right now if he didn't have to. He had other business to attend. shield coming up to protect him against a heavy strike from the club-wielding Doki. Sasori frowned just a bit as his defense began to crack. Hinata was grinning, holding chakra into her fists while releasing seals all along her body, wind and gravity augmentations leaving her body light and powerful. If anything, you should have run when you had the chance. Feeling lighter and faster than she ever had in her life, Hinata dug in one foot and dashed forward. Slipping through the legs of the clawed Doki while the club Doki jumped away, her right arm was reared back for a massive strike. Caught off guard by the sudden sprint, Sasori was a second late to mount a defense as a deceptively delicate palm slammed into his side. Hirako bursts apart in an explosion of force, chakra dispersing into the air while Sasori himself is sent flipping through the air to right himself and land among the sand. Eyes wide as he began to focus properly, he turned to watch the confident-looking Hinata walking through his puppet's remains. Impressive, so you do have some skill. To destroy Hirako in one hit is a testament to your strength. Smirk still in place, Hinata began to hop from foot to foot much as Naruto would. Get ready, because I have plenty more of that. Being set upon again by the summoned demons, Sasori decides to get serious. Young though they may be, the three of them were powerful. Twisting away from a claw strike before jumping away from a launched brace of senbon, the Akatsuki member nodded once. I guess then, I'll have to kill you. She did destroy his puppet after all. Idly holding up a hand and knocking away several senbon that were launched towards him, he waggled a finger towards the visibly frustrated Ino as he landed among the blocked weapons. Those won't work on me. He missed all of the senbon beginning to smolder. Giving him the finger, Ino let the unarmed Doki grab and toss her away with its covered mouth. Sure about that. Exclamation mark quote. Watching her weapons explode, she backflipped once before landing on the sand from where the Doki had tossed her to safety. You should remember who my husband is. Getting Naruto to help modify her senbon was easy enough, with the added benefit of some late nights alone. The echo of the explosion still rocking the area, the three young women and the Doki waited to see what would be coming from the dust cloud. A small breeze blowing him clear, Sasori frowns as he is immediately set upon by the Doki again. He removed the last bits of his cloak and started to press an offensive. Sliding between the legs of the unarmed Doki and slashing into its ankles with the fan blades at his hips to slow it down, he weaves away from a horizontal strike from the clawed Doki. Taking hold of the spiked cable at his abdomen, he used it to block several strikes from the larger creature. Weaving around a wide strike, his own weapon found itself digging into the beast with ease. Already though he could see Hinata shooting his way and jumping back with all his augmented might, he frowned as he realized he was actually at a disadvantage here. Continuing backwards quickly with the use of his hip blades, Sasori summoned one of his favorite puppets. Why don't I entertain you with the third Kazekage? Smoke rising in the sky for a moment, all of the Uzumaki women were treated to the grotesque and enlarged human puppet that once was the Kazekage of old. Draped in a worn and dirty cloak, the mummified and modified form had been heavily changed, locked now in an eternity of anguish. It was a tough battle between the Kazekage and I, but I came out on top in the end. So as a reward to myself, I turned him into a living puppet so he could always battle for me. Beautiful, isn't it? Your prime and perfection forever locked and unchanging. All three of them shivering, Tayuya brought her flute back to her lips while knowing for sure that Naruto would never work with this man. You're fucking dying. Club Doki racing forward while the clawed Doki was a step behind it, the unarmed one was still healing, but should be up soon. Directing them to attack the puppet, she wanted to feel out just what new craziness were they dealing with. The club Doki was first to strike, its kanabo arced over its head to smash the Kazekage into the sand. An almost river of metallic sand spews out from the puppet's mouth while the left arm comes up to block the attack. Several compartments open up all along the wooden arm to begin spawning more and more arms to help protect it. The kanabo comes down, smashing through several arms, but eventually it is stopped. Attempting to push through, the Doki is forced away as the cloud of iron sand shapes itself into a spear that attempts to bisect it. More cautious now, Tayuya frowns and changes her song, both of her still fighting Doki now changing to hit and run tactics while she thinks the situation through. She would like to switch their energy hunter mode, but if Hinata was right and he was barely human as it was, would that even work against the puppet master? Doubtful. Watching iron sand form into a wall to stop a charge from the club Doki while the clawed Doki tried and failed to decapitate the Kazekage puppet, she frowned even more. Ino and Hinata wouldn't be able to get close at this rate, and that hindered their abilities quite a lot. Seeing her third doki finally healed enough to fight, she sent it on a straight charge. Maybe she could weigh the puppet down instead. Sasori watched the summons fight against his puppet with some amusement, knowing that it was fruitless. Already the summons were beginning to tire, the poison most likely beginning to take its toll on them. Wishing he could smirk, Sasori planned out what his next move would be. Smartly, the three women were keeping back, away from the battle, but watching his every move, most likely looking for an opening to strike him directly. He'd have to keep an eye on the girl with the blue mask at the least. To so easily shatter a puppet, she could surely do the same to him if given the chance. You're all going to wish you had just turned around and left me be. Taunting him as he directed the Kazekage to push away the two attacking doki, he frowned as the previously injured third rushed in. Such an open attack was simple to respond to, and directed his puppet to do so. Tayuya gives a silent thanks as her third doki takes the Kazekage's right arm to the gut before purposefully dragging itself further onto the appendage and dropping down to the sand, dragging the puppet with it. Grinning, Tayuya changed her tune again, wishing she could taunt Sasori. The clawed doki is met with a literal wall of arms as Sasori responds near instantly, but her club doki rushes from behind the impaled and dying doki, getting a good hit in and smashing into the chest of the Kazekage puppet. Iron sand comes up in a deadly wave in an attempt to snare them, but both doki again leap away. Sasori grunts and changed tactics accordingly. You're going to make some wonderful puppets after I kill you, since you're working so well together as a team. Forming the sand into several spears, a thin but dense wall, and a sword, Sasori pointed straight towards Tayuya. Just imagine, fighting for me as your prime being for eternity. Wouldn't it be liberating? Going on the attack and setting the doki to dodging and fending for themselves, he started to gain ground on their mistress. Ino dispersed her chakra into the sand, realizing quickly that her earth manipulation was going to be much harder here than normal. But, as she began to literally skate across the dunes, she did now have a speed advantage. And with the control boost given by the brown oni mask she now wore, she considered that, like Hinata, she might just find an opening to do some damage. You know, being young and pretty forever wouldn't be so bad. Jumping and twisting as the large iron sword sliced through the air where she had just been, Ino gave him the finger. I'll have to bring it up with my husband later. I'm sure he could figure something out. Running in the other direction, chakra cycling through her blue Hanya mask as a lattice of blue barriers grew around her, Hinata chuckled as she dodged and weaved between spears, dead set on impaling her. You do need all the help you can get, don't you? Thankfully Lord Husband enjoys me thoroughly just as I am. Ino can't help but return Hinata's laugh with a just as haughty one of her own. Gravity will be your downfall one day. Bouncing from foot to foot as she gauges the spear's reaction times, Hinata dashes away and offers Ino a peace sign. It's okay. Not all of us can be so gifted. Tayuya shakes her head as her injured doki finally dispels, leaving her down to two that were themselves slowing rapidly. As fun as the banter is, anyone have an idea of how to get around this asshole's magnet release? Quote. Getting back to playing quickly, something rapid and flighty, she subtly began to course and pull chakra from her seal. She might be getting close and personal soon, and she really hopes that they didn't bite off more than they could chew. Because as it was right now, the puppet user certainly seemed to be the one in control here. 3-on-1 seemed like an easy choice at first, but now. Well, he wasn't really just one guy, was he? Body growing with muscle, skin darkening and a crown of horns growing on her head, Tayuya was ready to turn things up. Hinata shakes her head, still dodging and making no headway closer to the puppet or its master. I just need a moment of distraction. Ino called out immediately, you'll get it. Kicking up dust as she increased her speed even more, she weaved and danced with the sword that was doing its best to kill her. Having to twist backwards to avoid a vicious swing, Ino watched as a strand of hair was cut from her ponytail. Irritated, she reached deeper into the earth for anything usable, and finally smirked. Bingo! Augmenting herself and landing a roundhouse kick to the approaching blade, she sent it flying high into the air as she planted her hands down into the sand, grinning at Sasori. How's this? Dozens of earth spikes began to rise from and return to the sand from different spots repeatedly all around Sasori. Forced to dodge and jump away from the very earth began trying to kill him, Sasori now had to seriously focus on two of his opponents while keeping an eye on the third. Grunting, he took stock of things. The music user was keeping the Kazekage busy, the blonde was now badgering him with earth spikes and preventing retaliation with careful earth walls, and the blue-haired one was planning something deadly. Perhaps summoning more puppets would be the prudent move from here. No, wait. His spear strikes were getting closer and closer to their target, while the earth user was as well producing less attacks. They were slowing, which was good news for him after all. While you indeed have talent, I believe this is the end here. No one has pushed me this hard since the third, so at least die with that pride in your hearts. Seeing a moment, Ino dashes from behind her earth barrier, to intercept the Kazekage puppet. Launching herself into the air as the club doki smashes away the puppet's right arm, though with the sacrifice of the clawed doki falling victim to being tied and strangled by the many arms on the left. Smirking, she applies as much earth chakra to her body as she can stand, skin darkening as she strikes down hard towards the puppet. Eat this. Not as adept as Hinata with chakra control, Ino did however have a stronger muscle build and bone strength due to all of her earth training. So as her clenched fist came down and made contact with the puppet's left shoulder, it exploded into shards of wood and metal. Almost immediately the wound vented poisonous gas and Ino braced her feet against the puppet's chest to jump away with all of her might. Hopefully her mask along with her poison training would protect her from whatever she just inhaled, but it was worth it. Then she was hit with a cube of raw iron, rocketed away into the side of a dune with a groan. She was alive at least, hardened skin weathering the hit for the most part. Sasori focuses completely on Ino, iron sand welling up to produce dozens of spears. I'm going to enjoy every second of killing you. Stumbling as a burst of chakra expelled from his chest, Sasori looked back as a palm covered in chakra rested on where his core was housed. Effect immediate, the Kazekage puppet and all associated iron sand dropped to the ground. Chakra strings dissolving, Sasori grunts and manages a half step. How? Hinata grins behind her mask. Your abominable life is over, pass on into hell you monster. Watching the puppet drop lifelessly to the ground, Hinata watches as all remaining chakra drain from the body and the flesh core before sighing with some relief and relaxing. That had been much too close for her liking. Tayuya dispels her doki, jogging towards Hinata as Ino does the same, though a bit slower. How the hell did you do that? Sure, she knew Hinata could take people out in one hit, but they usually had a bit more life in them than that before going out. He did more than just make human puppets. Closer now and able to get a good look at him, Tayuya and Ino gasped in shock at the wooden body laying before them. He turned his own body into a puppet. The only part of him that was alive was in that cylinder. Reaching down and pulling said cylinder free from the puppet, all of the girls nearly gagged at the sucking sound it made as it came free. Leaking blood and clear fluid, Hinata set about sealing it away. Whatever he was in the end, he wasn't human anymore. Shit. To think anyone would go so far. Tayuya shivered to think that this was what the guy wanted to do with them. Beyond atrocious. Well, at least we got him. Panting and rubbing her stomach as she finally returned her chakra to normal, Ino stood up straight and sighed. Let's get all this sealed up and get a move on. I'm done with this desert heat. Hinata turned eyes to her laboring friend, Byakugan activating for a moment. Ino. Are you okay? Never better. Holding up a muscled arm and flexing, she's hit with racking coughs for a moment before both Tayuya and Hinata notice the blood that begins to leak from Ino's mask. Pushing up her mask and removing it, Ino groans as her body begins to heat up. Well, shit. Maybe I'm not doing so hot. Switching her blue Hanya mask for a green one, Hinata is on her in an instant, running glowing green hands all over the other girl. Moron. We were supposed to keep our distance, remember? Ino nodded as Tayuya set about sealing away the puppets so they could leave, now in a hurry. Yeah, well. You needed an opening. Tayuya giving her a thumbs up, said girl kept her seal active as she tossed Ino on her back and they began dashing back towards Suna with all speed, Hinata keeping next to her to keep healing chakra running through Ino. You're starting to turn into Naruto. Ino chuckled weakly, relaxing into Tayuya's back. I don't think that's such a bad thing. If you die he's going to drag you back with a "Hauj, I told you so." All three shuddered as they remembered hazing Naruto for much of the same behavior with Orochimaru. He'd never let them live this down. Yay, any chance we can keep this between us girls? Getting a grunt from Tayuya and a disapproving glare from Hinata, Ino sighed, yup, didn't think that was going to happen. Tayuya growled and wished, again, that she had paid attention when Naruto tried explaining the Harasshan to her. Take your lumps like a big girl, you'll be fine. Yeah, I know I will be. Tired all of the sudden, Ino just relaxed and let Hinata do her best to heal her. She knew her shorter friend wouldn't let her die just because of a scratch or two. Hinata watched Ino pass out with a sigh but gave a thumbs up to Tayuya. Looks like I can purge the poison from her system, mostly. Might need some specialist work from Karen when we get back to Izu. But I should have her back on her feet by this evening. Good. We wanna show Naruto that we can handle things without him. Even if he's going to give us shit for this. Tayuya wondered briefly just how well received this report was going to be, and figured Naruto wasn't going to be completely happy about it. Nothing for it now, all they could do was face the music. Fu was happy. It had been an amazing week with Naruko, and as she sat on her porch swinging her legs and looking out over the forests, she was looking forward to what was coming next. She had gotten a mission to patrol along their border where something suspicious had been noticed. She had noted that Shibuki-sama had seemed down when he had given the order, but Fu waved it off. There was talk that a couple of ninja had been missing and most likely that was what was bringing him down. But she couldn't be bothered with it right now. With as much time as she had been spending with Naruko, and all the convincing the girl had been working on her, Fu was ready to leave. Naruko had been telling her that they should just head to the border and just not come back, but Fu at least wanted to complete this last mission. Turning and looking as the door opened, Fu grinned at the other girl as she walked out in her freshly cleaned clothes and a pack that she sealed into a scroll. Seeing her usual clothes on, Fu pouts a little, I miss the bikini already. Rolling her eyes, Naruko has her hands on her hips as she comes to stand next to the sitting girl. You get to see me naked whenever you want anyway. No pouting. She agreed with Naruto, she was surrounded by perverts. Do we complain about seeing the same beautiful sunrise? No. Same thing. Giggling as Naruko bopped her on the head, Fu took a moment to roll to her feet. Ready. As ever. What's the plan? Naruko had promised that she would follow after Fu for as long as she was able. Maybe they could make it back to Izu before she kicked the bucket. Fu gently takes one of Naruko's hands into hers. We're headed south to the border. I'll relieve the guards there and we'll be on patrol for 2 or 3 days. From there we'll be relieved and then you and I can go our way. Fu turns a shy look to the woman at her side. Are you sure you want to stick with me? I'm sure there's so much you'd rather see or do. Nah, my place is right here. I'm not letting you out of my sight. Something about all of this didn't sit well with her. There wasn't enough of an uproar about 2 ninjas suddenly disappearing within the village borders. And now Fu was being sent off alone without a team. Nope. Naruko was on the lookout for backstabbing, though she would keep her thoughts to herself. Smiling and nodding once, Fu forms her wings and takes to the air, Naruko half a second behind her with their hands still linked and body shrouded in wind. I can carry you, you know. I don't want you to burn through your chakra for no reason. Naruko wiggled her eyebrows at the other girl. Between all the good food and our daily activities, I'm full and ready to go. Getting a giggle and a blush from the other girl as she had hoped, Naruko credited it more to eating those 2 ninja. While she didn't want to get used to doing that, she'd go through anything to protect this woman at her side. So eating some assholes from time to time was a good choice. Nearly an hour ticks by as the pair fly low over the tree cover, but eventually Fu motions down and the pair drop down below the canopy. Switching to tree hopping for the last bit of their journey, Naruko artfully flips and twists between the tree branches as they continue on. Sue, should I hang back while you report in? I'm sure they wouldn't like some random ninja hanging around, right? Fu shakes her head slowly. It should be fine, I'll just tell them I hired you since I didn't have a full team. She didn't want to hide away her best friend, maybe girlfriend. She'd have to figure that out. I'll lead the way with reporting and then we'll get to work. Giving Naruko a bright smile, Fu sticks out her tongue, then we can relax. Naruko followed along as Fu eventually dropped down to ground level, a small but well-used guard shack nestled between 3 trees that had grown together. Looks like shit. Fu swatted her on the arm as she walked by her. Be nice. We're going to be here for the next week or so. Naruko shrugged, As long as there's a bed, I do not care. I still vote we go straight to Uzushio. You just want me all to yourself. Fu looks at the blonde from over her shoulder as she makes her way towards the shack. Duh. Naruko doesn't refute the claim, knowing very well that it was true. You know, I wouldn't mind another week of just you and me in. The shack explodes outward, a red scythe rushing towards them and forcing the girls to jump away hurriedly. Coming together and watching a pair of figures walk around from the smoke, Fu looks worriedly towards Naruko. This isn't how guard duty is usually swapped out. If Naruko could roll her eyes any harder, she would, you don't say. Watching as the scythe is tugged back into the dust, her heart sinks as the cloud clears and two men bearing black cloaks with red clouds stand before them, one of the men with silver hair rubbing his head while the older dark-skinned man next to him berates him. How the hell do you miss such easy targets? Had them completely by surprise too. Kakazu wanted to punch his partner, but that'd only force him to have to heal the crazy religious nutjob. Or get off my back. It was dark in there, bare-chested and smirking. Hidden looked out at the women before him. You try fighting with a hangover. Get it together, this is the seven tails we're dealing with. We almost lost her too with that beacon seal dying out. Kakazu didn't normally keep contact with the village that labeled him a traitor, but they still contacted him from time to time for more lucrative jobs. Let's get this over with and drag her to leader. On guard and positioning herself slightly in front of Naruko, Fu frowned and began to well up her chakra. You've picked the wrong pair today. Naruko gives the pair a carefully made bored look as she lazily pointed a finger at him. Who are you supposed to be? Sure, she knew who they were, but names would be good. Any information she could get would be helpful. She didn't have high hopes on her ability to put one of them down. Kakazu crosses his arms over his broad chest, mouth hidden by a black face mask. Who we aren't isn't important. We're just here for her. That his gaze never left Fu was enough to tell who he was alluding to. You can get lost, if you value your life at the least. Yeah, hunting my girlfriend is a no-no on my list. Gonna have to kill you. She didn't miss the happy squeak from Fu. No hard feelings, ya no. Hidden lets his grin grow even wider. Just another wonderful sacrifice to Lord Jashin. Men, women, children, it doesn't matter, all are welcome in his embrace. You're a monster. The beginning of a chakra cloak begins to form around Fu as her anger gets the best of her. That's rich coming from the bug girl. Hidden quips back as he adjusts the grip on his side and lowers his stance. I'm looking forward to tearing you apart. Dashing forward to start his attack, he heads straight for Fu as the Jinchuriki takes to the air. I'll be clipping those wings. Naruko pulls free twin kunai and considers her options. Letting Fu fight alone was of course off the table. Making to dash after the pair, her way is stalled by an earth wall. Well shit. I'll entertain you then, since you're so keen on throwing your life away. Kakazu felt like entertaining this child for now, not willing to put more effort into it than necessary. Fu was focused, twirling to avoid the red three-bladed scythe sent her way and avoiding the cable attached to it as well. Flying around a tree and attempting to get close, she's forced back as the scythe returns faster than she would have expected. Hidden never stops grinning as he presses his advantage. Just you wait. I'm going to rip those wings off you and offer your soul to my god. Gotta be able to hit me first. Frowning as she watches his weapon tear through first a tree and then another, Fu again tries to rush towards him. Your aim could use some work. Come say that to my face, little bitch. Recalling his scythe and watching the cable snag on a broken branch, Hidden grins as the smaller girl takes the bait, rushing straight towards him. Planning on slitting his throat as she flies past, Fu prays her luck holds and tightens her grip on her kunai and paws on the speed. Easy win. Thrusting her kunai forward as she comes within range, her eyes widen as a second weapon, a blood-red spike attached to the other end of the cable is drawn in his other hand. She tries to twist away, her kunai grazing his throat deep enough to draw blood while his weapon draws a line of blood along her arm. Flying up and away, ignoring the pain, she gives thanks that she made a killing wound. Hope your god doesn't mind you dying instead. Beginning to chuckle as he begins to make his ritual seal with his own blood, Hidden turns to face the confused woman. He, oh you're fucked now. Licking her blood from his weapon and finally retrieving his scythe, he completes the seal and his skin begins to darken. Time to pay in your blood. Fu frowned deeply as she watched the man bleed himself out. Why wasn't he dying? What the hell was going on? What the hell are you? Your end. Glee written all over his face, Hidden brought his spike down into his leg. Not far away and a few minutes back, Naruko is doing her best to evade and keep away from the calm and collected Kakazu, who is still trying to convince her to leave them be. We're only after the container, I could care less about you. Carefully making a shunshin to get away from several earth spikes, Naruko takes a moment to hide out behind a tree. Fool, get away easy enough, and then I'll be able to blow you assholes away. She wasn't sure how she would do that just yet. She didn't have a stockpile of bombs like the original had, though she did have enough supplies on her she could probably cobble something together if she had some time. Gonna be real fun watching you explode. Jumping away as the tree she was hiding behind began to tremble and groan, she looked back to watch as a drill made of earth carved its way through the tree and toppled it with a crash. Earth users were the worst. You're about 100 years too early to be considered a threat. Switching things up a bit, Kakazu changes to his wind heart and readies himself to tear down the forest if need be. Non-threat she may be, even Genin could get lucky. Naruko promises herself that no matter what, Fu is getting away from these two. She probably didn't have the chakra to pull off anything crazy, but she did have a recall seal that she was supposed to use on Danzo. At the least, she should be able to pour on the damage and make sure Fu got away. Frowning at the tree behind her was suddenly cut in two, she mentally noted that this guy could use earth and wind. That didn't bode well at all. Jumping towards the ground to pick up speed and avoid another blade of wind that sheared off the branch she had been on previously, she started to dash and weave her way closer to the masked man. Getting real tired of your shit, old man. Chucking a pair of kunai with modified exploding notes, she watches as both bounce off of his skin and land on the ground. The explosion throws up dirt and debris, a cloud obscuring him from her sight, but that gave her a chance to try and rush around him towards where she could hear Fu fighting. Senses tingling, another careful shunshin carries her away as Kakazu lands at her previous position with a downward heel strike. The ground craters for 12 meters, and the older ninja stands calmly while ripping away the remains of his cloak. Exposing a heavily muscled but scarred upper body, Naruko is treated to the sound of his chuckles. Those weren't standard. You a seal user then? Haven't fought one of you in a long time. Maybe she was an Uzumaki. Those were always worth capturing alive, especially mature ones like her. Kumo would pay plenty and that had his full attention now. Guess I can't let you go. Body beginning to twist and morph as he decides to get a little serious, he focuses fully on the girl before him. Funny, I was thinking the same. Rearmed with new kunai as she continued to weigh her options, her concentration is shattered by a loud feminine scream that echoes through the forest. That was Fu, she knew that instantly. Seems Hidden started that heretical ritual of his. Welp, your little friend is done for. Guess that just leaves you. Panicking and deciding to hell with it, a smoke bomb is tossed down while two clones pop into existence. Feeling herself waver for a second, she streaks away while the suicidal clones make to keep Kakazu busy. What the hell was going on with Fu? She shouldn't be having any trouble, not with her Bijuan skills. Frowning at the tactic, Kakazu figures that Hidden has his battle well in hand. Walking calmly towards where he knew the other man would be fighting, he makes quick work of the first clone, which explodes in his face. Coughing and waving away the smoke, his black tendrils breaking out from broken portions of his body to protect him and begin healing him, he wonders if maybe there were more Uzumaki running around like this one. Blocking the second clone, which had come in with an armful of glowing seals, a squeeze of the neck dispelled it instantly. So weak. Slowly removing the spike from his leg, Hidden cackles as he watches Fu collapse on the ground in front of him. Confusion is written on her face along with pain as blood begins to seep from a wound made with otherworldly power. Hidden can't help but gloat, you dumb bitch. You're at my mercy now. And for mocking my god, I'll torture you until I'm satisfied. Moving to thrust his spike down into his other leg, he misses the enraged form of Naruko barreling his way to smash into his side. A clawed fist smashes into his face to send him further away and outside of his circle. Naruko keeps up, a second attack clawing into his back and removing a good section of spine before kicking him away into the distance. Happy he was down, Naruko turns and makes her way to Fu while idly observing the seal on the ground. Certainly not one she recognized, but one that gave her a bad feeling all the same. Dropping to her knees to assess the injured girl, Naruko probes the puncture wound. That's pretty fucking deep. How'd he get you? Unsealing medical supplies, she starts on bandaging the other woman's leg so they could get out of here quickly. I don't know. He made that circle, started screaming about his god, and then stabbed himself. Next thing I knew I was the one getting hurt. Freaking out and still unsure of just what had happened, Fu was mentally kicking herself. If she had listened to Naruko, they wouldn't even be here right now. They'd be halfway to Uzushio probably. I'm sorry. Hush, let's get you bandaged up and out of here. Taking in the information as she could, she made sure to tighten her bandage properly before turning back to the seal on the ground. Not sure how it worked at all, she stood and jogged over to erase the thing with her foot. More information to share, but no answers. Feeling more of her chakra chip away, she turns to Fu who is struggling to stand. We're getting out of here. Now. Fu nods, both sides have one injured person, that's probably the best plan now. Panting and making it to her feet, she makes eye contact with the currently red-eyed Naruko. Let's go. She'd make sure to question the girl about her eyes later. Both young women freeze as Hiden's laughter fills the air. In sync, they turn to see Hiden being carried over Kakazu's shoulder, black threads writhing around him and stitching him back together. Well, double shit. Naruko couldn't help herself, guess she wasn't going to be left with a choice here. You thought you were gonna get away, huh? You can't kill me. I'm fucking immortal. Laughing and grunting as his spine was literally shoved back into place, Hiden nudged Kakazu. Oi, can't ya be a bit more gentle? Can you not get injured by some wet behind the ears teenagers? Stopping and dropping the complaining man on the ground while continuing to heal him, Kakazu continues to focus on his prey. Should have left girl. Disgusted by the inhuman nature of their opponents, Naruko reevaluates things quickly. Kakazu could heal himself and apparently Hiden couldn't die and could hurt others by hurting himself. Sounded a lot like the oakum mask from the Uzumaki. If only she had one on her, she could put that to the test. Frowning, Naruko makes a pair of clones to harass the incoming men, before sliding a seal around Fu's wrist. Fu looks down at it. What's this? Reaching deep inside of herself and touching the small amount of Kurama's chakra that was within her, Naruko shook herself slowly. I've got a job for you. Can you do it? Fu nods right away. Of course. Anything to take down these losers. Watching those weird threads writhe and work on Hiden was creeping her out, but Naruko looked like she had a plan finally. You're going to go away now. Find Naruto, warn him. Blinking, Fu takes a step towards the glowing Naruko. What? How am I supposed to do that? Shaking her head, Fu has a bigger problem with this plan. We're supposed to stick together. Naruko turns to her, eyes red and teeth sharpening into fangs before her eyes. I love you, ya know. Thanks for all the fun. My short life wouldn't have been so much fun without you. Fu latches onto her quickly as Hiden finally begins to labor into a standing position. No. We're going together, remember, you can't leave me behind. No way. Using what little wind chakra she has to spare, Naruko circulates chakra through her body and takes hold of Fu's hand. Only one of us gets to leave this one. Sorry. Spinning once and adding wind to her, Naruko launches Fu into the air, the seal on her wrist glowing orange. No. I love you too. We're supposed to go together. This isn't fair. Tears flowing down her cheeks, Fu tries and fails to overpower the throw Naruko used to send her away. Offering the girl a smile, Naruko winks at her. I know. And then she was gone, a flash of orange transporting her away and out of reach of these immortals. Turning back to them, body changing and becoming more feral by the second, she snarls at him. Now who wants to play with Mama? Tone and voice guttural as she watches her clones try and fail to keep the men at bay. Hiden especially is furious. Twisting and turning to stretch out his back while casually destroying the weak clones, Hiden turns a twisted smirk towards Naruko. Oh, I'm going to enjoy tearing you apart, you little bitch. Denying Jashin of a sacrifice is the worst offense. It's heresy. I'll bleed you dry. Naruko give him the finger. Jashin can east bid you shit for all I care. Mouth opening impossibly wide as dense black chakra began to gather there, the ground around her began to groan and crack. Confused by the move but ready to race forward, Hiden is stopped by a faster moving Kakazu who recognizes exactly what the girl was attempting to do. To think she was a Biju container as well, just their luck. What the hell, Kakazu? You're not stopping that. Building several earth walls in front of them and detaching 2 of his masks to bolster the defense, he finishes with just a second to spare as the world around them is drowned out by sound and light. Ball growing to just shy of a soldier pill, Naruko can feel her body fading and takes that as the best she's going to get. Chomping down on it and feeling the full weight of it enter her and fully crater the ground around her, she gave thanks that just what she was had the answer to saving Fu. Hopefully her friend was safely back in a zoo by now. With some more luck, Naruto would get her memories like he should. Chakra overwhelming her finally, her mouth open to expel the mini Biju Dharma, everything in front of her succumbing to the Biju's wrath. Chakra burning out quickly, Naruko feels her body dissolve away. Mentally dropping into what feels like a dark pool, she hopes that it was enough. It had to be enough. Fu is dropped harshly onto the floor somewhere she had never been before. Covered in dirt, bleeding and crying, she struggles to sit up as she looks around. She's in a temple but no one was present and the entire area is dim. She can see light from a doorway not far away, while behind her is an altar painted with black flames. Standing with some effort and making no move to stop her tears from falling, she trudges to the door slowly while holding herself up with the wall. Naruko had asked her to complete a mission, so she was going to do so, no matter what. She doesn't make it far, collapsing again to the floor as she sobs, "How can I be so weak?" Punching the ground once, the pain centers her a little. How had she let this happen? She was a Biju container. She was supposed to be super strong. But she needed to be saved in the end. Worthless. Unnoticed by her, an elderly woman kneels next to her, grabbing her attention by waving a hand just in front of her face. "I'm sorry dear, but it certainly looks like you've been through a lot." Mito certainly wasn't expecting any visitors within the shrine. The only one who could teleport directly inside should have been Naruto. Curious. Fu can't help but nod to the kind woman. "My friend sacrificed herself to send me to safety. 'Cause I wasn't strong enough on my own. I should have listened, shouldn't have hesitated." Mito nods, looking off into the distance, before motioning Fu not to move. "Someone will be along shortly to come help you dear. You are safe here and no one will harm you within this temple." As Mito stands fully again, unable to help the girl physically, Mito bows to her lightly. "I'm sure you meant the world to your friend, so please, do not berate yourself so harshly. Believe in yourself." Fu nods, scrubbing her face with an arm to clear away the tears. "Where am I? Before that, who was it that saved you?" Mito did need some questions answered. She did not recognize the mocha-skinned girl before her, and she certainly was not an Uzumaki. "My friend Na-chan, Naruko. Naruko Uzumaki." Mito smiles at that. "Well, you are within the Uzumaki temple, deep within Uzushio. For you, there is nowhere on the planet safer than this." Not far away and in his office, Naruto groans as a headache of epic proportions builds on him. That would certainly be the last time he let a clone go that long before releasing it. That was several weeks' worth of memories hitting him all at once. Neji and his team on guard duty today, they worry a bit as Naruto groans again. Neji leans forward. "Are you alright, Lord Naruto?" Airhead-chan. Vision fading, Naruto collapses on his desk, causing everyone in the room to panic. Within his mind while he tried to go through all of the memories as quickly as he can, there's another mind touching down in a place they had never been before. Wandering around the dank sewer of Naruto's mind, Naruko is more than a little confused. Normally when a clone dispelled, that was it. Everything was gone until they were created again from Naruto's mind. As much as she could remember, none of them had even been able to just casually wander his mind like this. Thinking it over, she pumps a fist into the air, so it's something different. Which means that maybe there's a chance to get back to Fu-chan then. Better go find Naruto and straighten this out. Granted, that meant making him listen to a clone. Hopefully he would be interested enough in the weirdness of it all to listen to her. If not, then maybe she could beat his help out of him. Could she take over his body? Even temporarily. Only one way to find out, she guessed. Jogging along the sewer, she isn't brought to Kurama's chamber like normal. Ahead of her is a brightly lit area, and with no other options she runs headlong into it. Coming to a bright room she slows to a stop before looking around. Well great, the door is gone. Guess that's that. Sighing deeply, she figured that unless there was another way out, her only hope was Naruto summoning her by chance. I need to get back to Fu. I gotta make sure she's okay. I think you've done enough for a while. Don't you deserve some rest? A woman's voice, gentle, warm, fills the space and makes Naruko spin around. Who? Face to face with a kind woman with long red hair and wearing a green dress over a white shirt. She didn't know her, but yet, she did. She couldn't stop the tears already falling down her cheeks. You're. Kushina nods, walking forward and bringing the younger woman into a tight hug. You've done more than enough for your friend. Leave the rest to your big brother now. Giggling, Kushina nods as she holds Naruko at arm length to get a good look at her. I'm unsure on how this happened, but I'm happy I get to meet you, daughter. Everything that she had learned and felt over the last few weeks crashed into her. Naruko sobbed heavily while Kushina pulled her back into a tight hug, rubbing along her back while Naruko's own arms encircled her waist. I'm sorry. What could she say? She didn't mean to get so out of hand. She didn't mean to become a literal monster. She hadn't planned any of it. Hush. You did a wonderful job with what you had available. Sure, your coming into being wasn't planned, but hey, plenty of wonderful children come about just like that. Kushina hugged the girl even tighter. You leave it to Naruto, he'll straighten things out and figure out how to help you at the same time. Giggling and unable to stop herself, Naruko considers the entire situation just so absurd. Naruto's, no, their mother was sealed away inside of him as well. Did that mean he could bring her back with the Shinigami mask? Would he learn that if she got summoned? No chance I get to be big sister then. You're technically only a month or two old, so no dice. Pulling away and just admiring the girl with red eyes, Kushina nods firmly once. So, I've been stuck in here for a long time with no info. Tell me everything you can, please. I want to hear everything that you've been through. Cleaning up her tears and smiling, Naruko stands before the woman Naruto should have been able to call his mother all his life. Sure thing. Let's get you up to speed. Far away at the border between the land of waterfall and the land of fire, Kakazu frowns down at his broken but mending partner. I'm going to carve that shitty brat apart and hang her by her entrails. And that little blonde bitch, shoulda gave up when she had the chance. Now I'm going to torture her for days before offering her soul to Jashin. Tuning him out, Kakazu has a more personal problem that has him furious. That he had to sacrifice 2 hearts for this all because he had gotten complacent. Never again. At least we have a clue to go off of. Be patient. Hadn't they said something about Uzushio? It was to the southeast if memory served. They'd head there first, and track down the bug user and her mysterious little friend. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.